Hi guys! Welcome to my review of Pretty Little Liars episode 7-11, Playtime. Now, I did not actually review most of... I don't know if I reviewed any of the 7A episodes. I did in fact, I did the finale, or the mid-season finale. But I didn't really do very many of them, and I stopped, I think, halfway through about 6B, purely because I just wasn't loving it as much. However, it is now the last final stretch. We've only got a few episodes left to go before the big final reveal of who AD is, and I am quite excited to just finally get to know all of the answers. Hopefully they will be satisfactory. So after giving it some thought, I have decided that I am actually going to review these next 10 episodes, and I hope that you enjoy. So first things first, obviously I knew that Spencer wasn't going to be dead, but like, just firstly let's celebrate the fact that Spencer was not dead when she was shot, because I wouldn't have been able to bear that. I was really hoping that there was going to be some sort of explanation in this episode that the Mary Drake thing was a mistake and that Spencer wasn't her child, because I love Spencer so much. Like, if you've watched my old Pretty Little Liars videos, then you'll know that Spencer's my favourite character, and I just didn't want her to have to go through this. Also, like, just hating on Peter Hastings more and more and more as time goes on. So I suppose what I'll kind of start with this episode would be the kind of like ships situation, because that's always going to be something everyone wants to talk about. So I loved the Spoby scene in the hospital. It's weird because last season, because of all the nonsense with the Spaleb and Haleb and all that disaster, I was kind of like, I'd really not invested all that much in the Spencer and Toby scenario. I just sort of put it to the back of my mind. But that scene in the hospital where she went to see him, to be fair, she was going to see them on the instructions of AD, but you know, she went, and it just felt so nice and familiar and cute, and I realised that actually I am still a Spoby shipper. And it's weird because I'm totally off Hannah and Caleb, particularly Caleb. Like, I'm not off Hannah as a character generally. There were a couple moments in this episode where she bothered me, but generally it's more Caleb. And then I feel really sad because I loved Caleb. He was a character I really liked, but I think they've just made it blatantly obvious at this point that he never really cared about Spencer, and that Hannah was always like ultimately who he wanted, and that's fine. There's absolutely nothing wrong with knowing who you want and knowing like who you really ultimately love, but fact of the matter was, like, that's her best friend. And yeah, okay, so you could argue that Spencer shouldn't have gone there, but he knew, like, Spencer was clearly very invested in the situation with Caleb in a way that I don't think that he was with her. And just the very fact that, like, there was a line in that episode when they were in bed together and he said something like, oh, the last time I took my eyes off you, or the last time I let you out of my sight, I lost you down a rabbit hole. At which point he was still with Spencer. I'm sorry, but I'm not on board with that. Which is a shame, because from the start, Caleb was, that was the relationship that I thought was the best relationship, and I loved it, and I thought they were so cute together, but they've just totally tarnished it for me now. And that, like, oh, we're putting all the ships back together for the end of the show. Sorry, I hate that I'm being so negative about this. I'm starting off on a negative note, but I just want to get this out of my system. The fact that they're like, oh, we're, you know, this is the season where we'll put all the ships back together and like make everyone happy, and it's like, first of all, fan service isn't always the best idea if it's not reflective of what the characters are actually all about. And secondly, if that was your plan all along, you should never have messed with the friendships the way that you did, because that wasn't cool. Okay, moving on, Arya and Ezra. I feel for Arya a little bit at the moment, because it must be incredibly awkward to be like, do you plan the wedding? Like, Hannah's response was like, look, he's not said that you know, he wants to postpone or anything, so you just like plan ahead, and you know, he's got that to look forward to when he comes back from seeing Nicole. But that must be so incredibly awkward to be trying to plan a wedding when your fiancé is off to see his ex who was kidnapped. Why is nothing ever simple? The Alison and Emily stuff, they've got Alison back to being that difficult sort of character that she was in the early days. I think they had a little bit of respite from that the past couple of seasons, but they've just got her back to kind of being the character that she was in the early days, which I think I understand, because obviously, you know, she's been deceived by her husband, and she's gone through a lot, and she's lost Cece, and you know, she's broke and everything's a bit of a disaster, and now on top of all that she's pregnant. So understandably she'll be feeling vulnerable and she'll be being defensive, but yeah, her response to Paige, it just felt so like high school, and I think that was so embarrassing for Emily, because you know, they're now teachers. It's hilarious how many like ex-Rosewood students just magically get jobs at Rosewood High, but or the police department in Toby's case. But yeah, I thought that it was interesting that that they're all kind of back together, and it's much as though that was annoying me a little bit. I think seeing that dynamic between the three of them again is quite interesting. Again, it's just a sort of flashback to the early days for the last kind of, for being on the home stretch. So the game situation, I am intrigued by this. I mean, it's very OTT, but that's kind of what you learn to love about Pretty Little Liars, is like, you're not going to watch it if you have a problem with things being like overly dramatic or like seemingly completely impossible, because you're not going to get anything out of it. So I have to say I actually quite like this game situation. I think it's just very in keeping with the old kind of A games. Like, it's gone from like mind games to like a literal game that that they're playing, and I think that's going to be quite interesting. It's also very creepy because it's so evident through this that, like, as always, A, or AD in this case, has eyes on them like the whole time. So like the messages they were getting on the phone that just highlight the fact that this person knows what they're talking about and knows what they're doing at all times. It's very, very creepy, and I love that. I love when they do stuff like that. That's like, it's dramatic, but it's got that like sort of creepy, sinister edge to it. So I like the game thing. Let me know in the comments down below what you think of it, because I know that some people probably think it's ridiculous, but I think it's quite an interesting way to go. The Mona situation, I always want Mona to be up to no good, really, or not up to no good, but up to something like interesting. So the sort of helping Hannah with our business situations, sort of a little bit on the unimaginative side for Mona, but I did quite like those scenes. And just Janelle Parrish is just so good. Like, Mona's just the sassiest character. Theory wise at the moment, I don't feel like this episode has really given us any more clues in terms of figuring out who ED is. I think it was more about setting up for the kind of last few episodes. So really it was about setting up the game, confirming through the conversation with her mum that Spencer was actually Mary Drake's daughter, or Mary Drake and Peter Hastings' daughter. The fact that Peter thought that he was sleeping with Jessica and didn't realise that she was Mary at the time, just, it's all really messed up and awful. And the fact that he would go there, like, because Veronica said that she hadn't spoken to Jessica since Jason was born, and then Jessica had come to the door and been like, oh, you know, my sister's pregnant with Peter's baby. So I'm trying to think, Jason then would have been like, how much older than them was Jason? Was Jason not about 22 or something like that when they were 16? So like, that's been a while. Oh, I don't know, I've lost track. But the very fact that after everything he would go back there just really stresses me out. And I could totally understand from Spencer's perspective being like, why would you stick around? But I think that just kind of, it shows how much Spencer, even though she wasn't, you know, biologically hers, instantly meant to her, and she just wanted to protect her daughters, and she saw Spencer as much as her daughter as Melissa was. And yeah, I think that's nice. I'm still waiting for something to happen with Emily's eggs. Like, I know that there was like, was there not chat at one point about maybe the baby that Alison's pregnant with is like, somehow they've managed to implant Emily's eggs in Alison. I can't remember where I saw that, but it was floating about at the end of the last season. But I feel like that's got to come back at some point. Like, that was a really big deal, and I just feel like it wouldn't just get completely swept under the carpet. And I also feel like, obviously for like Emerson fans, if that was the case, having them raise this baby together, which is probably going to be the kind of end game idea anyway, I would imagine, unless one of them dies, which I don't think the fandom would be particularly happy about. But that would be interesting to see. So I don't know. I'm just waiting to see, because there's just things that have happened in the past that still have not been touched on, which is what I'm about to go into next. So Ren, I'm at the point now where if it's anyone other than Ren who is AD, I'm going to be disappointed. I think I've got so attached to that idea that, yeah, I genuinely think that if it's not, I'll probably be quite gutted. Apparently there's rumours down the rounds that it's Paige, which if that's the case, I'll be really disappointed, because I'm not on board with that, and I don't really understand why that would be. They'd need to have a lot more than like, oh, they were enemies at school and like Ali Billy doing at school kind of thing to justify doing that to the rest of them, I think. Yeah, so I don't know, I wouldn't be particularly happy with that, but as I say, I'm just like, I'm so invested in the Ren thing that at this point, if it doesn't turn out to be him, I'm probably going to be horribly gutted. And yeah, I still don't know why it would be him. I still don't really have many ideas. Like, I've watched theory videos that have touched on who they think Ren could be related to or connected to that have been really interesting, and I think if they go down one of those lines, then great. or if they come up with another reason. I kind of, at this point, I'm just like, whatever it is, as long as it makes some sort of like sense and it's him, like, I'll probably be happy. If it's not him, then he has to have some other purpose, because there were the things where he was communicating with Cece back in season 3 that made like no sense whatsoever. That needs to get explained at some stage. So if he's not AD, he's done something, he's been involved in some way, and it needs to get clarified. So fingers crossed for an explanation one way or the other. I did find the final scene with Jenna quite amusing. It's just like, it's so dramatic at this point now that that I kind of love it. So when she's sitting in this dark room and AD, or we're assuming it's AD or AD's minion, whoever it is, gives her a cup of tea. I also think the fact that that person had like a lab coat sort of, or like one of those like blue coats and the gloves on, kind of points to Ren, the sort of doctor thing, but then I'm like, is that deliberate? Are they deliberately doing that because they want to throw us off the scent, or is it just supposed to be that wherever they are, like, they've got to not leave any fingerprints or whatever? I don't know. I'm just clutching at straws, I think, here at this point, but I think that just automatically made me go like, oh, maybe it is. I read an interview, I can't remember where it was, I'll link it in the description box down below, actually, it was quite interesting, with Keegan Allen and Janelle Parrish. I really like both of them. And they were talking about, basically they were given sort of spoiler-free insight into the last few episodes and how they felt about it, and when they read the final script and saw who AD was and whatever, and why AD had done what they've done, they both said it was this massive shock and they would never have expected it. And I'm like, you're probably told to say that anyway, just, you know, to build the suspense, but I really hope that that's true. However, if that is true, I kind of feel like the Ren theory kind of goes out the window, because like everyone's talked about the Ren theory, and so, you know, if it is him, then they probably have just been told to say that they were hugely shocked. I don't know. Like, as I say, I want it to be Ren, but at the same time, like, I'm up for a surprise as long as it makes more sense than some of the other decisions that they've made in the past. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I was so excited for the A reveal, and to be honest, I found it a little bit of a letdown. I think that it made sense in as much as, like, my best friend Emma, she figured it out. So she figured out that it was Cece before the big reveal. She'd picked up on a few things, and she'd said to me at one point, oh, I'm thinking it's Cece, and I was like, I have to keep a straight face, because she was watching it, like, catching up. And so she figured it out. So in as much as, like, I don't disagree, I know some people were like, oh, they've obviously just, like, come up with that last minute, but I don't actually think that, because there were enough clues that I do believe that that's what they intended from the end of season 2, whenever it was they said they built it from there. I do kind of get that. However, I felt that there was slightly problematic. There were issues with it that I felt that they should have been a little bit more careful with, just in terms of representation, and the way that they went about it wasn't necessarily ideal. And also, I just got a bee in my bonnet about it being Jason at that point, so I think like anybody who wasn't, it's kind of like now, if it's anybody other than Ren, I'll be disappointed. At that point, I think if it had been anyone other than Jason, I was probably going to be disappointed. If you go back and watch my old reviews, I was just like absolutely determined that it was going to be Jason. Every week I went back and forth, and I'd be like, it's definitely not Jason because they've shown us that it couldn't be, and then the next week I was like, it's absolutely Jason, I'm right, this is my theory. And then I went back and forward with that for weeks, and was so like excited about the idea of it being him or just someone else closer to them. I wanted it to be like a huge betrayal, which I'm still kind of up for. That sounds weird, like I want it to be a betrayal, but at the time I was like, Jason or Arya were like my two that I really wanted it to be at the end of season 6. Or the mid-season finale for 6, that's who I wanted it to be, Jason or Arya. I was just living for it being one of them. I still really want Arya to be involved in some sort of way. I don't know why, because I do like Arya, but I think it would be fun if there was this like huge twist and it was, you know, as I say, it feels like a bit of a betrayal. So yeah, anyway, let me know in the comments down below what your theories are, who you think AD is, what you thought of this episode. I'm just really now at the point where I'm like, good, I'm glad that we're winding it up now, and that we get to kind of get answers to all of these questions, and hopefully, as I said at the start of this video, satisfactory answers. So yeah, like I said, leave me a comment below to let me know what you thought of this episode, and do give this video a thumbs up to let me know if you enjoyed it. If you want to keep up to date with my reviews of Pretty Little Liars and all the other videos that I make, you can hit the subscribe button down below if you haven't already. Thank you so much again for watching, guys, and I will speak to you again soon.